of Quebec, Canada, just outside Saint-Jovi and the village of Tremblant in the shadow of Mont Tremblant and its sleepy ski village lays the circuit, Les Circuit Mont Tremblant, where we are for round 5 of the Rolex Sports Car Series. Look at Daytona prototype points. Taylor and Angelelli hold on to their lead, but Pruitt and Diaz close to with only 10 points. Then you've got Butch Leitzinger and EFR, followed by Andy Wallace, Jörg Bergmeister, Stefan Johansson, Kurt Wagner, Tracy Krohn, and Nick Janssen. They're all in it too. Those guys want to win the championship. Consistency is what wins these championships. You look at Craig Stanton sitting on top of GT championship. He has been very consistent, has not finished out of the top 4, and Andy Lally and Mark Bunting had not finished out of the top 5 until their problems at Laguna. Then you see Levitas and Murray, then the team of Taffel, Davis, Bill Auberland separated from Joey Hand after they had that accident in qualifying out at Laguna Seca. So those teammates have been separated, and then on down through the rest of the GT field. Let's take a look at this very challenging Mont Tremblant circuit.
Mont Tremblant is 2.65 miles of road course, some 15 turns. Turns 1 through 4, very fast downhill section of the racetrack, goes through the S's 4 and 5, then a swooping 5, 6, and 7, very high speed down into the south loop. As you come off a turn 8, a long straightaway to 10, and then you hit the gulch. Climbing uphill to the bridge turn, and that's where things get exciting.
Well, you know, you talk about how the cars are going to perform in the race. You've got some keys to the race right here. Focus.
Major focus right now.
So important in the wet.
The drivers have got to really stay focused on their job. You not run this car off. Asset management, what that means is making the best of what your situation is. You're taking care of getting your car in and out of the pits properly, etc. Crystal ball, boy, that's something you need.
Yeah, you got to try to figure out where the pace car is, especially the GT guys. If they get separated by a pace car, and we'll talk about more of this later, I'm sure, they can easily lose or gain a lap. And then, you know, focus, I think, is probably going to be the most important one today. Fuel mileage, that was another issue that was up there, but is that out the window with the wet?
Well, it's not as much of an issue possibly, but I don't know that we'll stay wet all through the 6-hour race either. I mean, fuel mileage still can play into this on a long run.
Well, a split start as usual for the Rolex Sports Car Series. GT will start a little further behind the GT cars. You're looking at the GT cars as they come up to turn 14 right now.
I'll tell you, if I were a driver right now in one of these cars, I'd be a bit nervous. Here's the start right here. You see a car dropping 2 wheels off.
The green flag is out, and these guys have to be careful right now. You see the 59 car slowing somewhat, not being able to get the traction down, but Pruitt is the one with a clean windscreen right now.
I'd want to be in that car. If I had a choice, I want to be in the lead car because you can see these guys back in the spray, they're really having a fit right now.
We talk about unknowns. Not only is this rain tire an unknown, they have not run on this racetrack all weekend long, and I believe last year was dry here, so they don't know where the puddles are.
Look at Scott Pruitt right there. I don't know if you noticed as he went around the outside of that corner. See, he's not making an apex. He's not trying to get to the inside of the corner because it's polished there. It's very slippery. He's running what we call a rim shot around the outside, hoping to get some grip. That's a smart first lap for Scott.
Well, all these guys are going to be searching for grip. Once again, they have not run here in the rain, and we talk about puddles and rivulets of water running across the racetrack, and those can be the real hidden dangers out there, right, Dorsey?
Absolutely. Any of these low spots that where you get a big standing water, you're going to have trouble with hydroplane or aquaplaning.
39 car right now just past the 77, and the 19 car off the Finley Motorsports car.
Luckily, he's made it all the way through the gravel trap, and he will continue on. I don't think he damaged the car. Lucky he moved there.
That's Memo Gidley in that car right now. But, you know, some of these prototypes have found that when they go off in the grass, that front porch, the splitter on the front nose of that car really digs in, and it can do some damage. Jörg Bergmeister was saying the other day after he had an off in practice, he said, I can't believe how fragile the car is. If it catches a little bit of dirt, it just pulls that under tray off and does significant damage to the radiator. But once again, the guy with the clean windscreen is Scott Pruitt.
I think really for Memo, what he's going to have to worry about is a clogged up radiator. As he went through that grass, that thing acts like a little lawnmower, and it cuts all the grass and packs it into your radiator.
Now, interesting, Pruitt on the apex is there. He's hunting for grip, but the guy with no grip.
Way too much speed. He came down off that hill with way too much. There was no way he was going to make that corner.
Yeah, that was at the end of the straightaway going into turn 10, I believe, a pretty high-speed section of the racetrack, and it looked like he just did not get that car slowed down. And, of course, once the brakes lock up, out there in the wet, it almost feels like the car accelerates. You can see a little bit of standing water there on the track as Pruitt comes through.
If I was not mistaken, looking behind Pruitt, I think second place is taken over by the sister car, the 02, I believe, in second now.
02 is in second right now. Pruitt and Diaz out in front. Then the 02 sister car, Johansson. Then the 10 of Angelelli and Taylor. But Stefan Johansson had never been to this racetrack before. Kurt Wagner drove the car and helped get it set up in practice. Then they put Johansson in and actually left him in for qualifying. Somewhat surprising because he was not as familiar with the track as Kurt Wagner was, but a tremendous job in qualifying by Johansson to put that car third.
Watch what Stefan's doing. He's doing exactly what you should do. He's following the exact footprint laid down by his team car, Scott Pruitt. He can put his 2 tires right in that dry area and get a little bit extra grip.
Well, we're going to have a lot of action when we come back, I'm sure. A lot of slipping and sliding. Pruitt leads at Tremblant. We've certainly had plenty of excitement here today. Look how wet the front straightaway is when they get the green flag. Visibility, a big, big problem. It almost seemed like you didn't want to lead, Dorsey. One of the first problems early on, the 67 car.
Huge hit right there as the poor Porsche came over top of the hill and encountered Nick Jansson's wounded car.
And Janssen trying to get back to the pits. That wasn't going to happen. We talked about the problems for the leaders. Stefan Johansson spins out of the lead and makes big contact with the wall.
Surprisingly, didn't hurt the car somehow.
That gave the lead to Doug Goad in the Spirit of Daytona machine, but that lasted for 5 laps.
I don't think I'd want to lead this race. So he's around.
We talked about there must be a black cat out there somewhere. Then Jorg Bergmeister takes over the lead, but they get bottled up in traffic, tries not to take out his teammate in the GT Porsche there. He has to go off track. And then after a driver change, Fittipaldi gets in the 66. Angelelli still in the 10, takes over the lead. Track begins to dry, you got to believe these guys are going to need to put slick tires on pretty soon. And Dorsey, like you said, spray coming up the back. Look how gray the pavement is in there.
It's time for sure.
These rain tires will not last.
Now they're trying to pick off Andrew Davis to get through there, all right, no problem. But now I'll tell you what's going to happen with the shuffle. With Luis Diaz being out in the 0-1, the first one to go to slicks, he will be leading this race here very shortly. Take my word for it.
It'll be interesting to see his lap times as soon as he gets those Hoosier slicks up to speed. And look at Fittipaldi just around the inside of Bobby as they come through the turn 8 complex and does it easily as they go down the back straightaway. We'll see if Bobby has anything for him as they come into the braking zone for 10. No, not this time. And it looks like Fittipaldi now gaps Bobby by several car lengths, and Fittipaldi takes over the lead. He made that look easy.
It was easy. He just drove right by. It's just going on. The whole complexity of the race is changing right now, though. I mean, people are making decisions on coming in, getting tires that are going to affect the outcome of the entire race. I mean, you can't run out here on these full rains with it dry like this for very long before they start chunking away.
Yeah, you saw the 66 car stayed out, but I'm not sure if the 77 did or not. He may have headed to pit road. Look at Fittipaldi down the front straightaway into 1, and you can see the drying pavement there, still somewhat dark offline.
Yeah, 77's not behind him anymore, so you have to assume he's come in, and Calvin's there.
He is in, and they are going to the slick tires. I don't think they need a fuel at this stage. They've obviously made that call. It's now drying out to the point that Bobby thinks he's losing time on the wet weather tires and lost the lead with the 66 machine. Kevin Durant said, as soon as we get that call, we're going to have to make it and bring him in and change the slick tires. The key is they're running that harder Hoosier compound, the 60 compound. The ambient temperature is still pretty low here today, so these guys are going to have to be very careful until they get these tires up to temperature. Looks like a good stop, everything going well. Let's go down to Chris Neville with the slick tires.
Cal, Jan Lammert's bringing the number 2 Sitco into pit lane. He's going to be going slicks too. These guys looking to hopefully make up a little bit of ground here. Lammers is in there trying to use some hand signals for everybody to clear off the front of the car. It looks like he's probably got some grass in the front. Obviously, radio communication still a problem with this car, so it's probably running a little bit hot. It looks like he's trying to say clear that radiator, and they're getting slicks on the car. Hopefully get him out here pretty quick.
Well, Chris, taking a look at that right now, I'm looking at Diaz's time. His slicks have gotten in. They've come in. He's running fast right now. You see these guys. You see right there. Those tires are came out, Brian, steaming like crazy.
Absolutely, the rain tire is very, very hot. Look at the windshield wiper, either has some tape on it or the rubber has come off. He just turned it off. A lot of these guys still running with the windshield wiper on. I think probably having to pay so much attention to what's going on, they don't want to reach over and turn the switch off.
That's exactly what it is, too. They're so busy with driving and the focus when we talk about they have no time right now to turn that windshield wiper off.
How long is it going to take to get these tires up to temperature on this racetrack?
I watched Diaz. It took him 4 laps. Calvin?
Well, the GT leader is Andy Lally. He's been behind the wheel since the green today. Now going to turn it over to his regular teammate, Mark Bunting. Just these 2 drivers only. Some guys going with 3 drivers today, some with 2. It's a 2-driver team. They had 2. I'll change it to slicks. I think that's going to be the course all the way up and down pit lane. Any pit stops from this point on, unless we see more precipitation, will be on slick tires for the rest of the day. So Mark Bunting and Andy Lally finished 2nd here last year in SGS. They'll go 1 stage further. Let's go down to Chris once again.
Cal Court Wagner just brought the new Century number 2 into pit lane. He also going to slick tires. A little bit of damage on the right front corner of this car, so a little bit of bumping and banging still going on out there. And it looked like Stefan Johansson was going to get back behind the wheel. He initially put his helmet on, but Court is staying in the car.
If that is just the damage from when Johansson hit the wall earlier, that is unbelievable. Just some cracks in the bodywork. The car seems to still be going strong, but once again, you saw the steam coming off of those rain tires. This thing is obviously very, very hot right now. I think Andy Lally and the whole TRG team did the right thing. They kept Andy in the car through the most difficult conditions that were out there and handed Mark Bunting a car with a drying racetrack, and that'll be a lot more comfortable situation for him, and he'll be able to do good things in that car. 58 looks like he's coming down pit road. Actually leaving pit road, he was just in.
It takes about 3 or 4 good hard laps to get any temperature in these slicks, because it's really, like you said, the ambient temperature here is very, very cold. The racetrack is very, very cold, even though it is drying. So right now you would assume that the first mile in was Diaz. He just ran a lap track 138. These other guys are running 153s.
Well, this is interesting right now. Sasha Maassen, obviously a very, very experienced race car driver in that Fab car Porsche as he came out, and you see the Frizzell car that had been out there, even though he's on the rain tires. It's taking Sasha a long time to feel comfortable with that car. He's only 2 or 3 corners into that stint, and right now he has no tire underneath him to work with.
Well, Diaz, it took 5 solid laps, but in the last lap, I'm talking from the previous lap to this lap, he's dropped 8 seconds in 1 lap. The tires are in, boys.
Looking at Christian Fittipaldi, your leader right now in the 66 machine. Turning great lap times right now himself, and we understand the 4 car is in. Chris?
That's right, Brian. Butch Lights are going to bring the 4 in. They're also going to slicks, but we got to remember these guys are well back because of that off-track excursion, that little hit that Elliott Ford Robinson had very early on. The nose is repaired on this car, and they're back at it going, running some good times, but I think they're about 7 laps down right now, so real tough day for the Boss snowplow car. And I think the big question right now is when are we going to see Wayne Taylor in the number 10 come to pit lane? Just watched him go through turn 1, and he's well slower than all the other cars, but he's still on the slicks.
Well, you wonder if Max Angelelli can really do that amount of time if they were to bring him in now and replace him with Max Angelelli. We'll have to wait and see as you look at the 65 car out on the racetrack. Calvin?
Well, it's been a great day for the TRG group and Krone Racing. At one point there, about 5 minutes ago, they led both classes, and one of those leaders was Andy Lally. Andy, was the call made to bring you in for tires, or were you out of fuel, or was it, the both at the same time?
Actually, we had a situation in the rules where a driver could only run for so long, and we came right up on that, and they gave us a warning, so we had to do it. We were close to our fuel. We only had 20 liters left, but car's solid, Mark's solid. The LA Auto Gallery Porsche is flying today, and I'm looking forward to getting back in and maybe getting some dry time here.
Did you make any changes to the car for the wet conditions at the beginning that would hurt you now it's drying out, or did you really much stick with a dry setup?
We made one change that might compromise our dry time a little bit, but not too much. I think we're pretty good.
Kyle, he's been on the pole here 3 times, but still looking for that first win.
What they're looking for is a lead in the championship. The 10 car on pit road, Chris.
Yeah, Brian, we were wondering how long it was going to take, and it didn't take very long for Wayne Taylor to decide that he needed to go for slicks too. So he's in, getting 4 slick Hoosiers, getting trying to also fix the radio in the car. You can see they've got one of the crew members working inside the car to try and get him some communication, try and get this thing sorted out. So they've got fuel, slicks, and hopefully Wayne can get back out there and get back on the hunt.
These He's down and back underway, but things really shuffling around here right now with the decisions to come in and do these drive tires. Some guys still out on range, but they won't be for long. I think right now, Dorsey, there's no way you could run more than a couple of laps and keep rain tires underneath you.
No, I mean, in retrospect, looking up at the timing, 137 is what we're seeing for the guys on slicks. Diaz is running 37.1. Bergmeister leading only did a 142.1, so 5 seconds a lap. He won't be like that long.
Now the 66 car is going to have to come in and go for slicks as well, and things will get shuffled around once again. And you see the same thing really back in GT, the leading GT car right now with Lee Keane and Corey Friedman in it, running well off the pace. And the other's 09 car is in. Chris?
Yeah, Brian, Marc-Antoine Cameron getting the 09 back out on the racetrack. Real quick stop for these guys. They got slick tires under that car, so looks like our front runners, pretty much all of them on slicks now.
Now it's just a matter of who came in first and how long it takes for them to get those slicks up to the temperature.
Yeah, it's been a card game all day long, and it continues here at Le Circuit Mont Tremblant. The guys trying to decide, is it going to stay wet or do we need to go to dries? We'll find out all the answers when we come back. The 21 BMW of Bill Auberlen sits at turn 12 after heavy contact with the wall. A very uncharacteristic mistake by Auberlen. Look down the hill.
Loses it early, and watch this huge impact. Bam!
Big hit.
Solid concrete wall, passenger side. That car is tore up.
Yeah, that car will not get back into competition today. I can't imagine
maybe
that
ever.
it would.
That thing could
That
be hurt
was a
beyond
big
fix.
hit. You saw him just get up on the curb down there at the bottom. The car got a little bit loose.
Well, we knew he was running really hard.
The 01 car is in. Chris?
Yeah, guys, a lot of activity going to be happening down here in pit lane. 01, Luis Diaz bringing the Comp USA into pit lane. Scott Pruitt getting back behind the wheel, so they're doing fuel, tires, once again slicks. Scott Pruitt going to be finishing this one out, so these guys pretty happy with what Luis did out there. Still having communications problems with the car. And we're going to wait for some of these other leaders. Wayne Taylor should be here soon.
2 hours, Doris.
Ganassi pit stop, really well orchestrated. You watch how good those guys did that. That might be the difference between winning and losing this race, making these really clean pit stops.
2 hours?
I don't think they can do that.
Yeah, 2 hours, a long time to be in the car. Chris?
Brian, another leader, Wayne Taylor bringing the SunTrust number 10 into pit lane. Max Angelelli getting back behind the wheel, so Wayne doing exactly what they told him to do. Be conservative out there, take care of the car, don't put a scratch on it, and that's exactly what he did. So fuel, tires, the axe behind the wheel, these guys are going for the win.
You know what? I think Scotty can do 2 hours. I know Max the Axe can do 2 hours.
Well, they've got a problem, though. They're taking the engine cover
that's
off
not
the 10
good.
car.
That's right, guys. They're pulling the bonnet off back here, so they're going to be checking something. We'll just kind of have to figure out exactly what they're going for here.
Looks like it's down in, what's that, sway bar?
Yep, that's exactly right, Brian. That is a sway bar that they're trying to fix there. It looks like one of the pins came out. They might have pulled that out during the wet conditions just to try and get the car to work a little bit better, but now they're trying to stiffen it up.
66 car is in. Calvin?
They are, and I think it's just going to be fuel only. Christian Fittipaldi staying behind the wheel. Jörg Bergmeister was at the ready with his helmet on, but they're just doing some fuel only. I think maybe the reason here is they're only halfway through the stint, and the other thing is that keeping these tires on, he'll have tire temperature when he goes back on track. He'll have to get another set back up to speed. Let's go down to Chris Neville.
Cal down with the 02 New Century. Kurt Wagner getting out of the car, putting Stefan Johansson back behind the wheel. Tires and fuel in this car. No serious damage from that contact early on that Stefan had, which is just absolutely unbelievable. Just a little nick on the nose. But these guys, once again, hoping to try and get some of that bad luck in that first one of the races. Try and get a good finish here today.
Well, let me explain what we saw in the number 10 car there. The sway bar at the rear had been disconnected, which allows roll in the chassis for when it was raining. Now that it's dry, that roll makes the car get very, very loose. So what they've done is they've come in, they've reconnected the sway bar up again, which makes the car back to being a quick race car. That could also be why Wayne Taylor was a little bit off pace, because it would be really slippery. Chris?
Doris Jan Lammers bringing the 2 Sitco in, and it looks like Andy Wallace getting back behind the wheel. So he wanted to get back out there on a Dre racetrack, and that's exactly what he's getting right now. So fuel, tires, Andy Wallace. It looks like we're going to have a great battle here these last 2 hours. We've got a lot of good cars left, and some of the great number 1 drivers getting back behind the wheel.
You got to wonder, I mean, these guys, Andy Wallace, Angelelli, 2 hours they're going to have to do. Stefan Johansson. And you think back to the 66. Fittipaldi will stay out for another stint, and with an hour to go, or a little less than an hour ago, when he has to do his last pit stop, they're going to have a very fresh Jorg Bergmeister hopping in that car. Bill Arberlin there has gotten out of the 21 machine. He will not be smiling at the end of the day. He's kind of shaking his head. I think his bell is wrong. Calvin, you're with Tom?
Tom Miller is the boss here at PTG, and Tom, we know that Bill had a big one there. First of all, is he okay?
Yeah, he's okay. One of his teammates reported he's walking around. Apparently, they sent the ambulance there, but I think everything's okay.
Certainly trying to make up some lost ground there with the pit stop he had. We had to fix the rear suspension, and you know Bill is on a charge. He realizes with Joey in a different car, these races are very critical with the drivers getting split now.
Well, that's true, and you know, obviously now he's probably losing his position in the points, and Joey is gaining on him again. But you know, it's a 6-hour race. A lot of things happen. We got way down. We got all the way up, all 3 cars in the top 5, I guess. So I don't know what happened to Bill yet. Something could have broken on the car. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm happy he's okay.
The good news, the other cars are running well, and you got the 22 car up front right now.
Well, that's what we come here for, is to win. That's the name of the game.
Well, they do that on a regular basis. 10 years now for the PTG team. Been running these M3s and a lot of championships behind them, Brian.
Well, I can tell, Tom, that something is definitely broken on that BMW now, and not going to be fixed anytime soon. As you look down the leaderboard, Fittipaldi holds on up front. Joey Hand in the BMW in GT. Things definitely heating up. Fittipaldi trying to hold on to the lead, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it here.
Comes up the inside, and he's got position. Now can Pruitt get in there?
And he pushes him wide. Pruitt slides up the outside. No, that's not going to work. Fittipaldi holds on to second. Calvin, 65.
Yeah, problems again for the second race in a row for the Racers Group number 65. Mark Bunting behind the wheel. He had contact with the 15, the Chris Bingham Motorsports car. And this is big damage to the front end here. The crew have been working on this car, trying to replace the radiator. It took a shot to the right suspension as well. And their day is going to be a long one. They're just going to try and work hard, try and get the car back on track and score some valuable points, but not the championship charge they were looking for today.
No, definitely not the championship charge they wanted. You talk about charging, it's Scott Pruitt charging right now. Looking to see if he can find a way around Fittipaldi. Johansson has taken over the lead and is making good ground.
Looking up the inside, not enough that time. He's got to get around Fittipaldi because Johansson's leaving.
Johansson is checked out a little bit. Now it's Fittipaldi and Pruitt. That will be the battle on the track as you see Johansson flash off your screen there. Pruitt not close enough to do anything with him this time. We'll see as they come into the braking zone for turn 10. You've got the GT car there. Ooh.
Taffel didn't give him much room.
No, he didn't give him much room. There's your battle for fourth.
That's just a position change. The two just passed for fourth place.
Great battles all around this racetrack. Now Bert Frizzell falls back a spot to fifth. Andy Wallace up to fourth, and David Donahue still holding on to sixth right there in the back of your screen. The whole complexion of this race has changed with this drying pavement. Race cars back to slick tires and guys making suspension changes like we talked about earlier, Dorsey. And now it's going to take a while to get some rubber back down on the racetrack, I would imagine.
Yeah, they're running about roughly a little over a second lap slower than qualifying. Taffel in trouble. That's Jim Taffel's off the racetrack. You see him trying to get himself back in position.
It's right there at pit in. A little bit of damage to the splitter there on the front end of that car, but not enough to really affect it, or at least it shouldn't. And Pruitt trying to set up Fittipaldi as they come through the flat turn 6. Then we'll have some heavy braking down here. He looks to the outside. And with that defensive move to the inside, that's going to slow Fittipaldi down. They've got lap traffic in front. We'll see if they can clear him.
Both these guys really cutting and thrusting. Here comes Scott up the inside.
Oh, and they touch.
And they're going to spin Scotty around. That's a shame. They tried hard not to hit him, but it happened.
Well, I mean, that's another one of those deals, and I know that Wayne Taylor is going to watch this race afterwards, and we'll have to see what Mark Ralphoff says here.
Don't say it.
Well, it was a very different deal, and you go back to the battle here for fourth. The two-car Andy Wallace still holds the lead over Bert Frizzell, and then David Donahue. That has settled down slightly in there, but Take a look here. You see Fittipaldi coming into the corner.
Gets up on the inside. Pruitt's up in there, but he's in with so much speed that they bump right there, and Scotty's the one that pays the price.
Yeah, but your normal line is to come down a little bit in there for a slightly.
I don't think there should be, myself, I mean, I don't think there should be a penalty on that, because the guy that's perpetrated it is the guy that's...
Yeah, is the guy that suffered from the whole deal. Yeah.
You know?
The 01 is in, Chris.
That's right, Brian. Scott Pruitt breaking the 0-1 Comp USA into pit lane. He's going for some fresh tires and fuel. They're hoping that this might get him to the finish, and it probably will. We've only got about 55 minutes left here, so this could be the last stop for this car. They really got the big break there, jumping into the pits quick.
That call right there can win him the race. If they can go green the rest of the way and he makes it on fuel.
Our clock is showing 1 hour and 13 minutes.
That would be a long way to go.
That would be a long way to go. Something sounds wrong. Oh, very quiet. There we go. Have the mics over there so you couldn't hear it.
Well, here's the 59 right on with Casey French. Just had that spin, and it did make damage to the left front.
Got the contact up there.
And you see where he hit the guardrail, hit the tire or something. Oh, and he's off the road again.
I think he's got to cut down left front tire. 10 is on pit road, Chris.
Yeah, Brian, Max Angelelli bringing the 10 car in. He's doing fuel and tires too, getting a little drink of water in there. Everything's looking good in the car. They are adding a little bit of engine oil, you can see here right on the side of the car. But this is exactly what these guys wanted. He's been a very fast car out there since he took that penalty, moving his way back up to the front. And now he's going to be able to close that gap that he lost early on with that penalty.
It's a little bit strange to add engine oil, don't you think? 2 quarts it looked like.
It is interesting. I mean, you think too that in the rain in the beginning, probably not running those cars incredibly hard. You're trying to short shift them and all that to keep wheel spin, minimized. So interesting that it's burning the oil. You see J.C. France bringing the 59 car onto pit road after the problems that he just had out on the track, and they'll take a look and see if they can get that fixed. 66 car is on pit road. Calvin?
Well, the interesting thing is Christian Fittipaldi does not have a radio, so until he pulled in, he was not aware that Jörg Bartmeister was definitely jumping in. So it's going to be tires, fuel. Now, with about an hour and 15 or so left, they need a little bit of yellow to streak it through. Mike Johnson is saying, yeah, we can do it. I just spoke to Kevin Buckley, said, no, we're going to need some help on this one. Let's go down to the 02 car with Chris Neville.
Cal Stefan Johansson bringing the new Century car into pit lane. Once again, just tires and fuel. You can see some damage up here on this right front corner, but everything looks pretty solid there, so I can't imagine they're going to do too much here other than just tires and fuel and get them out. Also behind him, Andy Wallace in with the 2 Citgo. So these guys, fuel, tires, they're basically trying to get these guys back out on the racetrack, give them nice clean cars. We're going to have a great battle here to the finish.
Well, without a caution, they can only run about 40 laps on fuel before they're out. And the way I look at it, they often have to get a splash and go.
Well, I mean, I looked at the 66, maybe the 2, maybe the 02, but Pruitt was in a lap ahead of that with, we showed an hour and 13 to go.
And they don't run, they run about 55 minutes.
I can't see that they can make it to the finish.
Without cautions, I don't think so. But I think they're all in the same boat, aren't they?
Well, we talked, one of the last keys to the race that we talked about this morning was fuel mileage, and that's going to be important to see which one of these guys can conserve the most fuel. On board with J.C. France.
This is the first incident right here. He's going to make contact with the 16. 16 comes in, he spins right along the guardrail and hits it here. Chris?
Hey, Doris, sorry I can't add on the 59 right now, but I did check in with these teams running up front, the 10, the 02, the 01, and all of them are saying that it is going to be really tight on fuel. So might have been a little bit premature there thinking that they could go the distance. However, if they get a bunch of help with some cautions, they might be able to do it. Otherwise, we're going to see them for a splash and go at the end.
Yeah, I see. The way I see it, Chris, I think they're about 10 minutes early, 10 minutes shy of being able to make it the whole way.
Yeah, if they can make it the whole way, they're going to spend a lot of time in tech after this race.
Well, as you said, fuel mileage could play out here.
Yeah, we talked about mileage in the beginning. When it was wet, we didn't think it would be that big of an issue, but now it's dry. The last couple of hours will be a sprint race for sure. They have been. Just a little over an hour to go. Can anyone make it on the fuel they've got? I don't know. Stay tuned. We'll all find out. Max Angelelli still holding point over Scott Pruitt, and then Andy Wallace in the 2 car. And Dorsey, we've talked about fuel. All right, who has to come and get it?
Well, I think personally, I think the 10, the 01, the 2, I think everybody, with the exception possibly of the Porsche, there's a spoiler in the crowd right here. Darren Law in the 58 doesn't need to.
A good look at the 19. He's the other one that we don't really know that much about, Calvin.
Indeed, and they've had a tremendous run, Memo Gidley and Michael McDowell. I mean, you guys have made up about 3 laps. You've been the fastest car for many portions of the race. How are you guys on fuel? All of the leaders are saying they're rolling the dice here possibly. Are you in good shape compared with them?
Yeah, we're pretty good. The Make-A-Wish Air Force Reserve prototype is running pretty well, and it's going to be close, but I came in the last stop a couple laps later than the leaders, so we've got about 2 laps on then. I'm just not sure if 2 laps is enough to get to the end.
About the ultimate pace, if we saw a yellow right now, we had the field bunched back up for a thrash towards the checkered flag. What sort of shape would Michael be in, do you think, in terms of the pace of the leaders?
I'm confident he's going to be pretty close because when I ran in the middle part of the race, we were setting some pretty fast laps, and I was just cruising and trying to make up time. Michael's been doing a great job, and I'm sure the car's going to be right there. If we get a yellow, we'll be right there.
Okay, well, this team is certainly working the strategy great today. We talked about how they lost the race earlier in the season. Boy, they are fast learners, Brian.
And you are right, Calvin. If they can pull this one off, it would be a huge feather in their cap. I mean, right now, I'm with you, Dorsey. I look at that list of the top 5 cars, and I think I just don't see it.
I think all of them need a yellow or a splash, and there might be a ringer in the crowd in that 19, and certainly in the 58 that could be a ringer too.
But a splash isn't just 5 seconds of fuel.
No,
it's a run down pit lane.
Right.
And
you've got to slow down from the track speed, get down to the pit lane speed, go to your pit, get whatever amount of seconds of fuel you need, get back out on the racetrack and get back up to speed. So it's not a quick deal at all.
You got to figure it's at least 30 seconds. McDowell,
right.
A little lockup, yep.
He's running hard though. I'm watching Michael. He's going out on the exit of these curbs and so forth. He's pushing pretty hard.
His last lap time was not that quick, but he had traffic on it. It was a couple of seconds off the leader's pace, but as you know, around this racetrack, getting held up by one GT car at the wrong apex could probably cost you easily a second to a second and a half as he flashes by the line this time.
We got like 17 minutes to go, and we really don't know. I think a lot of pit stops are going to happen in the next 15 minutes.
I think they've got to, and the great thing is we're going to be here the entire time. We're going to take you to the checkered flag through this last 17 minutes and 20 seconds as our little Rolex clock shows us up there along the speed strip just below it. See the DP running order as it flashes by Angelelli and the lap time that he's running. McDowell just isn't right there, but look at the time that Pruitt and Wallace really is the fastest car of those top 5 right now.
He just turned the fastest race lap about a lap ago. Andy Wallace did. It would be so much for this. It would be so great for this car, Darren Law, the 58, if that fuel strategy worked out and they could possibly win the race.
Chris, you got more than the 58?
Well, just trying to get the word. You guys good on fuel? Everybody's kind of scratching their heads. A couple guys say they are, a couple guys say they aren't. What about the 58?
Yeah, we're good to go to the end.
You're confident?
Well, fairly confident.
Now, Dorsey's going to tell me when I walk away that you were pulling my leg.
No. To be very, 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 very close.
Well, this is going to be tight, guys. After 6 hours, it's all coming down to fuel.
He said, we're good to the end. He didn't say where the end was.
Right.
He didn't say we're good to the checkered flag.
That's
we're good to the end.
Mike Carlucci there. He's saying that we're very, very, very. Whoa! It almost didn't make a difference. That was a very close situation underneath the bridge. You could have made contact easily.
We got to take a bunch of these crew chiefs and put them in.
Well, I've driven for Mike before, so I know what he.
We got to put them in the poker tournament. Got to put them in Michael Waltrip's poker tournament. Let's see this.
Darren Law, this is a bad place to get loose. He's underneath the Porsche GT car. Look at that. Oh, just got in the greasy part of the racetrack.
It looked like he said, I'm going to pass this car. Ooh, I may have a trouble doing it. Talk about passing. Look at Andy Wallace and Scott Pruitt. This is that run down the long straightaway to 10. Wallace looking up the inside.
Scott being defensive on the line, too. He didn't give him any room to the inside. Wasn't a block. I should say that right now. All he did was move to the inside to make it difficult for Andy. But Andy actually had the run right there.
Definitely had the run. Look through the lap times, the times that scroll across your speed strip up there at the top from time to time are the fast laps for those cars, not necessarily the last lap that they ran. And when you look back at the last lap, Andy Wallace a good 9/10 of a second faster than Scott Pruitt was as they come to the line. This time there'll be some GT cars in the way. see.
Andy's going to get him. I really do. Andy Wallace got a really fast car right now. Just set the fastest race lap a couple laps ago. He's definitely quicker than Pruitt.
Yep, Pruitt chopped a little bit by that 05 car, but no harm, no foul, and they've got more GT cars in front of them as they work through the turns 3, 4, and 5 area of the racetrack. Really tight section in here, and a GT car in front of Pruitt holds him up slightly. Being held up is one thing, but that doesn't mean that Andy can pounce right there. It's got to be at the right time so he can get the run.
And you got to have a place to go when you make the pass. I mean, getting held up by the GT car usually ends up being the roadblock if you can't get around it.
That's where you wanted to be, and he happens to be there. We'll see if Andy can do anything as they make the run through turn 7 over to turn 8.
He's looking the inside. Got it deep, not enough yet.
Now this is where the run onto the straightaway here is where Andy Wallace has been so strong, and he's been trying to make that move at the end. We'll see if he can get any kind of a run through turn 8 and down as they get into the braking zone, this heavy braking zone for turn 10. You talked about it being bumpy, Dorsey. Let's see.
Last minute, pops to the inside.
No.
Pruitt shuts the door. I didn't think it was nothing. You saw how bumpy it was down there.
Yeah, not that time. It seemed like Andy was just a couple of car lengths off of him as they came on. Another heavy braking zone coming into 14. We'll see if he can do anything with him there.
That's my crash corner you're talking about. Nope, it's not going to happen this lap.
Pruitt jumps out a little bit there, and they're going to catch GT traffic in the middle of 14, right in the wrong place.
Andy Wallace turns another fastest lap of the race. No doubt right now he's the fastest car in the racetrack. Number 2, he's got speed. It needs to get around Pruitt, though. It's going to run down the lead car of Angelelli.
Yeah, if he can get past Pruitt, I think he'll pull away from him. He's very, very quick right now, but just doesn't seem to have it, and it could be that Pruitt maybe running a little bit more downforce gives him a little bit better braking capability at the end of the long straightaway.
I think it's a matter of time with it. Showing me what Wallace's lap times are. It's just going to be, he's got to get a run going and get to the inside. We know he's going to try it down here. He's trying to overlap.
He's going to have to make it work.
Here
Look, he goes.
Not enough yet.
He's going to have to make it work. Scott Pruitt is not going to make a mistake and hand it to Andy Wallace.
But I think for Pruitt, he's fighting a losing battle because the faster car, you know, sooner or later will come to the front. These guys, again, no love lost between the two. They had words last year.
And this is where Wallace needs to get the run, but it seems like Pruitt pulled a little bit at the apex. But he's closer this time than he was last time as they head down the straightaway.
Watch this. I know Scott will go to the inside to some degree. No way. Just blast by. Now he's going to have to put the pedal in the metal and go run down Angelelli. I think you're right. He will.
Look at the gap that he just pulled through the apex there. That was through the apex of 11 where we had seen some problems today. As you look at the 66 car there of Bergmeister.
Look at these guys. This will be their first win if they can pull it off. The first win of this year anyway. And they know they got a good man behind the wheel.
Looking at the 66 car, Calvin.
Well, Mike Johnson, who's the team manager of this, still believes that Jörg Bergmeister can get to the checkered flag without a splash and go. However, one thing they have lost is the flat shift on that car. I mean, they can't just hold the throttle wide open while he's doing the shifting, so he's having to lift a little bit. They say it's costing him 2 to 3 tenths of a second per lap, but that's really not the critical issue right now. It's if they can stretch that fuel mileage.
Is that going to help with fuel mileage, having to lift out of it?
No, actually it's going to hurt, you know, having to lift out of it because that interrupt shift is so clean. Take a look at Andy Wallace's pass on Pruitt. Pruitt knew this was going to happen too. Watch. He looks to the inside. This time Scott says, all right, look, I'm not going to do it. And Angelelli is falling into the clutches of Andy Wallace. Well, you got 3 minutes to go. This is the lead car. It's coming up to make the turn 14 toward finishing up this lap. That's going to give them basically 2 laps to go. There's Max Crawford on the headset. Just as Mike. Hi, Max. And Jan Lammers next to him as they watch. 2 laps to go, unofficially by my records.
Well, they finished fifth here last year, but you know, Andy Wallace, you can't say enough for the guy. He's won the Daytona 24-hour. He's won Sebring. He's won Le Mans. He's won in just about every type of car that he's gotten in, and he has done the lion's share of the work here today in very, very difficult conditions.
Well, you know, he's known for coming from the back and just being a charger. Here's the white flag indicating 1 to go when he comes back through this time. 1 more circuit.
And And this is where heartbreak happens. You come by, you see the white flag, you know you've got 2.6 miles to go, and you're hoping you've got 2.6 miles worth of fuel.
Kurt Wagner is. He's hoping his boy and his car's got enough fuel for that last run. And that's not too far back, actually.
No, Pruitt well behind Wagner the last time past the line. Gidley only 7 seconds behind Pruitt, and he is closing on Pruitt. Well, Scott turned the wick up that last time. They ran almost identical lap time, so we'll have to see if Gidley has anything for Pruitt, if he can close down on him in the final lap. About a lap and a half left to go, a little less than that for Andy Wallace, and he's going to be careful. He's only got
rolling the dice here, I'm telling you.
He's only got a little more than 4-second lead over Stefan Johansson in the O2 car, so he can't relax too much because Johansson is right there, and they've said we're going for it at the end. So Johansson is going to be pushing to the bitter end. We'll see if he can close in on Andy Wallace, but Andy's got to keep the hammer down.
Andy's got a 31.12 for a really fast lap that last time, but so is Johansson at a 31.40. So I mean, both these guys certainly not on any fuel conservation. They're doing and of course, you know, Scott Pruitt slowed down, but he's also in
1:33-second lap that time for Andy Wallace, a second faster for Stefan Johansson, but a second won't get it. Fuel problems would the last time the number 2 car won Homestead last September. It's been a long time since Andy Wallace and Milka Duna have tasted the champagne. We'll see if they can do it today, or will the O2 car, will they be the spoiler? Will they make it?
Jan Lammers in that car with Milka and Andy. That'll be a great win for him, another notch in his career.
Can't say enough about Jan Lammers either. To come in and occasionally, you know, sit in this Daytona prototype and run right on the pace. Max Crawford put a tremendous team together, both on the guys that design and build and work on these Crawford chassis, but also the pilots that he has put in the seats. Andy Wallace out of turn 8 and on to the long back straightaway for the last time.
That darn hill wasn't in the way he'd have it made.
Yeah. For the last time at speed, I should say. He should hopefully see the checkered flag if he can work his way through these last 4 or 5 corners on the racetrack. There's turn 11 up the hill to turn 12. But the problem is it's up the hill, Dorsey. It takes fuel. You got to burn it to get there.
He can make it from here. He can make it from here if he has to. It would be ugly, but he can get it.
Like we said, for the first time since Homestead last September, it looks like victory will go to the number 2 Citgo Crawford. Andy Wallace, Milka Duno, and Jan Lammers. The checkered flag is out. Victory for Crawford, and the O2 car indeed crosses the line second. Good finish for Stefan Johansson, and Kurt Wagner will have to wait and see what third place brings.
Can Pruitt make it back? Here's your lead car.
22 BMW
in GT.
Takes the flag in GT. They win there. The BMW up front in GT. Andy Wallace, Milka Duno, and Jan Lammers, they'll be tasting the champagne and celebrating when we come back to the circuit Mont Tremblant in Mont Tremblant, Canada. We'll come back for all the celebrations right after this. There was certainly plenty of action here today. You see the 2 car there. Even action after the checkered flag. I think Andy Wallace tried to do a donut. And, you know, sometimes it works for you and sometimes it doesn't. Andy needs to practice. We said it had been since Homestead last year, since they were in victory lane. Whoops.
Traction control.
Yeah, he's going to have to take some lessons from the guys in Nextel Cup. Chris?
Andy, it was heartbreak again at Daytona this year, but sweet victory here today.
Well, I tell you what, you're looking at the happiest man in the world right now, really. The race was unbelievable. You saw the conditions at the beginning. You probably saw the shots from in-car. You couldn't see a thing. So it was a case of staying out of trouble and just making sure you can go as fast as you can at the end. I have to say the team did a fantastic job in the pits. My teammates did a great job as always. Thank you to Citgo. Thank you to Pontiac. I am so happy to be here. Max and Jan Crawford let me drive their wonderful car, and look what I do to it on the after I've passed the flag.
The racing was great. You got to talk us through the donut.
Well, the problem is I don't have enough power to spin the wheels, and that's the result. So, but I'll tell you what, it was my fault. So sorry, fans. But no, I'm so happy. You know, everybody puts in so much work. I know everybody says that, but this team works completely every day, every night, and I'm so happy to be here. Thanks a lot, guys.
As you look down the results, you know the winner, second place. Pruitt managed to hold on for third. Gidley and McDowell, what a great done for 19. Then you look through the rest of the field, back through the rest of the top 10. Doug Goat, Stefan Gregoire, and 8th in the 09 car. What a great job for them. Look through the rest of the field. Some problems for the 67 car. We saw that huge hit early on. And Golan and Bobby in the 77 car, a great job they had going until they got caught in traffic. Well, you heard from the leaders in the Daytona prototype class, but the GT battle was just as good all day long. Let's check in with Calvin Fish with the winners in GT.
Well, it was a great race, and ultimately it came down to the 22 car winning with Ian James and Joey Hand. Joey, you started life out in the 16 car, switched over to this car. About 3 hours in there, you really earned your paycheck today. In fact, is Milner going to give you both paychecks for both cars?
I don't know. You know, I'm just happy to be here. I think I did earn my money today, but, you know, I'm just thankful for these PTG guys. They put together 3 great race cars, and I jumped in both cars, and they were really close. I know I kind of gave that 16 car away in the beginning. I had to pit because I just couldn't see. It was unbelievable out there. I've never seen anything like it. I knew I just needed to get through it and give it to Milner Jr. and to Justin Marks, and they'd drive it home, and that's what they did. Great job by those guys. And Ian James, man, he drove his thing, kept it up front, and I just jumped in and took the checkered.
You'll look through the results there. The 22 car out on top, 80, and then back through the rest of the field. What a great run by Dumoulin back there, and then Siegel and Aldhoff back there in the 05 car. We got some great pictures from their onboard camera, I should say, and way back in 17th, the 21, we saw Bill Auberlin's big crash. Like we said, he's been taken just to make sure, precautionary, just to make sure he doesn't have a concussion. Took him to the hospital real quick just to make sure. Regardless of the rain, it was a great race. You couldn't have asked for anything better. We had a little bit of everything, like we said, excitement all around, and this one will be talked about for a long time. Make sure you join us at Watkins Glen for the next 6-hour event.